Shields up, Ironbreakers. We're here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to MMOments, and today we're going to be talking about the Shadowlands leveling experience. In case you guys are not aware, in the last Monday, the Shadowlands expansion for World of Warcraft was released, and I even had a live stream here on the channel where you guys can kind of like check out the starting moments of the expansion, which is basically most of the European servers exploding, the American servers exploding as well, a bunch of people basically stuck on login screens trying to get back into the game as the servers kind of just buckle under the load on account of the fact that, you know, during the times that we are living in where a lot of people are confined to their homes, it is only expected that a lot of people are like, hey, I want to check out the new WoW expansion, why not? It's not like I got a whole lot better to do, right? So there was a lot of demand for this particular expansion. There's also a lot of hype around this expansion, but I gotta tell you guys, I personally was not super hyped about the expansion itself. Like, I'm excited to play with my friends and to do Mythic Plus and to basically engage in the endgame content loop of World of Warcraft, of doing dungeons and trying to optimize my character and doing that type of stuff. That I'm excited about. But the expansion itself, the theme of the expansion itself, they didn't really speak all that much to me. But having said that, you know, at the start of an expansion for World of Warcraft is usually one of the most exciting times for said expansion. And as such, you know, I wanted to get in there right from the get-go and level up a character and just get to max level as fast as possible while still experiencing as much of the story as possible. Because ultimately, you know, I'm still the kind of guy that likes to go off the beaten path and explore the occasional treasure and rare mob and get a couple of side quests and all of that. And I gotta tell you, halfway through the main campaign of the Shadowlands, I completely started ignoring side quests because they were simply not interesting at all. I'm not saying they have to be interesting, but to me personally, they were just not interesting at all. And if I could have, I probably would have ignored a large chunk of the campaign itself because I did not like the campaign. Like, look, I've seen a lot of videos from people just like, oh my God, it's amazing. It's like, it's so good. It's so much better. And I almost feel like this is just the effect of having played Battle for Azeroth for so long. And I would even say that it's an effect of potentially the systems of Battle for Azeroth not being particularly good. And then, you know, you just kind of like associate everything into a bundle, like system, story, everything just kind of like gets mixed up because everybody hated Azerite traits. Let's just be quite honest about that. At least I think a majority of people did not like them because it kind of prevented you from doing alts properly. Then you also had the things, the essences and the corruptions and all of these other crazy things that BFA had, which I wasn't even there to experience because like I dipped out very early on in BFA because I just got completely burnt out in the game. I think I did like Gahoon. I'm not even sure if it was normal or heroic, but you know, I did like the last boss of the first raid and I was like, yeah, I think I've seen enough. I don't think I want to keep playing this. That's kind of like how BFA went for me. It was an extremely frustrating expansion. But, you know, I feel like a lot of people are coming off of that experience. And Shadowlands just feels so fresh to everyone that everyone's just like, oh yeah, this is much better. It's much greater. Because like, I did not think the story was that great. Like, let's just be perfectly clear here. So you start off, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the story, but not really go into any major spoilers. But basically you start off and you're sent to this zone, which is the Maw. And that zone, I thought it was cool because, like, you know, you start off, you're in the middle of the action. You can't even summon your mount. You have to like figure out how to navigate this area. And I thought that starting moment at the Maw, I thought that was actually really good. I had a lot of fun in that starting moment. I thought that the story was actually decent at that point. But then, like, you're at the Maw and you see these creatures with wings. And then you're like, you escape the Maw and you're sent to this city, which is called Oribos, which is basically the capital city for this expansion, which kind of like connects to all of the other areas in the Shadowlands. And from there, because you saw these winged creatures, I suppose that's like the thread that they pick up on. You saw these winged creatures. You should go check like what's going on over in Bastion because there's winged angels there or whatever. So you go to Bastion and it's like, oh, there's like these Forsworn, which are the ones that are working in the Maw, and You know, basically Bastion is a zone where I just felt like the game came to a screeching halt. Like you started the expansion in the Maw and you're just like going in like super fast. We gotta go save our friends. We gotta do stuff and whatnot. And then you get sent to Bastion and like suddenly, hey, you're in the Shadowlands paradise and there's some stuff going on. We need your help. And it's like, it's incredibly frustrating to just see like them completely ignoring, almost ignoring the main reason why we're in the Shadowlands. Like we're in the Shadowlands to go help our friends. Like that's the point. We're in the Shadowlands to go find out what happened to Anduin, Jaina, and you know, all of these other characters that are stuck in the Maw, and we're trying to save them. But the moment you get the Bastion, it almost seems like all of that gets thrown into the wayside. And it's like the focus is now, oh, there's the Forsworn, and you know, and we gotta help them because we gotta help the Kyrians. And then when you're done with Bastion, they send you to another zone, which was also extremely boring. No. After Bastion, they send you to Maldraxis. Now Maldraxis was like the saving grace for me. It was the most fun zone that I played in. Like in terms of looks, I know it's not the best looking zone because it's just like, you know, bones and necro stuff and whatnot. But like I got to Maldraxis and I was like, hell yeah, you get to Maldraxis, they send you into the theater of pain, just like a big melee, like everybody fighting everybody. And you go in there and if you happen to have war mode on, you're killing NPCs and Horde at the same time. And it's just like a big old mess. And it was amazing. I loved it. Like, it's just like you hit the ground running again, right? You get that feeling that you had at the Maw where you're hitting the ground running and you're just like going in there and you're killing stuff and whatnot. And the motivation at that point is still a little bit dubious because, you know, you just came off of Bastion, but at least in Maldraxis, they're able to like get you going because you see Draka and she's like helping you out. She's like, oh, she kind of like saves you from, you know, dying in the theater of pain or whatever. And she's like, I need your help to figure out this thing that's going on and then I can help you. And at least there seems to be a little bit more structure to what is happening in Maldraxis, and you go through Maldraxis and then they send you to Arden Wheel, which is I'm sorry, like if you like Arden Wheel, good on you. I think it's a beautiful looking zone, but like in terms of the story and the campaign that took place in Arden Wheel, like Bastion was already boring for me. Arden Wheel was like the epitome of boringness. Like it's just like, it was a zone that was a pain in the ass to navigate because like whenever I wanted to go get a node or get like a rare mob or get a chest or something, I just felt like I had to like go all the way around half the world to go get the things that I wanted to get. And I was like, okay, maybe you made this zone with flying already in mind. I don't know what the thought process was there, but like it was a pain just to navigate it. But then on top of it, the quest itself is like you're trying to get an audience with the Winter Queen, and I'm sure Blizzard thought it was real funny. Oh, you see the Winter Queen, your character bows to the Winter Queen, and she just like ghosts you. I didn't think that was funny at all because I just wanted to get my quest done and get the hell out of the area, and I was like, Jesus, just going through the motions. Like, I thought Arden Wheel was terrible, and I know that there's a lot of people that like Arden Wheel. If you did, then more power to you. Like, I don't blame you for it, but you know, it is what it is. Some people are going to like different things, and I didn't care for Arden Wheel at all. I didn't think that the whole thing about the pixies tricking us and then like, oh, and here's your powers. And then on top of it, the paladin powers that you get for Arden Wheel, I didn't like them either. So whatever. Basically, Arden Wheel was like a kind of another big stopgap for me. And eventually we get sent to Rivendreth, and Rivendreth was where things really was like, from a story perspective, things just stopped making sense altogether. Because like, supposedly we were sent to Rivendreth because the person running Rivendreth was going to help us by providing more anima for Arden Wheel, which again, I'm just wondering, why are we even helping Arden Wheel? How does this further our own campaign to go help Anduin and Jaina and Thrall and Bane? How does this help us again? Nothing at all? Okay, fine. Okay, whatever. But I guess we have to go help Arden Wheel because we're trying to fix the Shadowlands all of a sudden. We're trying to... I probably missed a couple of story beats because I just was not engaged the moment I got to Bastion. The only thing I really cared about was Maldraxis and Draka, and which is weird because like I'm not the kind of guy that likes undeads. I don't like orcs. I don't like any of that stuff. But Maldraxis just had this vibe to it that it just kind of like, you know, it got me engaged and it got me going. But anyway, we get to Rivendreth. and they basically have you torturing souls. And a lot of people are trying to justify this by saying, oh yes, but that's where evil souls are sent to be redeemed. But a lot of those souls have already atoned for their sins, and you're still in there torturing them, which, you know, as the champion of Azeroth, you know, you get sent to the Shadowlands, and what do you end up doing? Torturing souls. It's like, there's something about like my character arc that just doesn't make quite a lot of sense. And I know that people will look at this and be like, who cares about the story? It's all about the end game. That's the only thing that matters. And okay, but in here we're talking about the leveling experience. I'm talking about my experience with the story, how I felt about the whole thing, right? And that's why, you know, I'm going into this type of detail. Like, I just felt like a lot of the story there didn't make a lot of sense. And then, you know, obviously the main bad guy, the main guy that runs Rivendreth is evil. Like, you know that pretty much if you've seen the cinematic for Rivendreth, you know that the guy is evil. And, you know, even just watching the stuff that he is doing in some of the cutscenes that you get while you're going through Rivendreth, you know that he's evil, and you're still working for him anyway because you're trying to get his assistance to help Arden Wheel or whatever. And then eventually you get connected with the Resistance. And it was weird because they sent me to go to this place where it was like a torture section, like what's the Hall of Embers, something of Embers, where basically there's a light shining down there. And because everyone in there is like undead and vampires, it's all really bad because it burns you. And you help out some crazy people that are in there. And then eventually you help out this rebellion. And yeah, that's kind of like the end of the story. And then, but by the time that you reach the end of the story, it is revealed that the faction of Rivendreth has been working with the big baddie of this expansion, the Jailer, all along, and they fuel a bunch of anima into the maw. And now the Jailer is much more powerful. And then you get to pick your Covenant. And let's talk about Covenants real quick. I was extremely disappointed with the way that Blizzard did it. I think everybody talked about the whole thing about pull the ripcord and whatnot, and I think that that's exactly what they should have done. They should have just like, I don't think there should have been power associated with Covenants, because the only Covenant that I really wanted to join is obviously the zone that I enjoyed the most, which was Maldraxis, which is really weird because that is the Covenant of the Necrolords, and I'm not into undeads, I'm not into orcs, I'm not into the abominations or anything like that. But that zone and those characters were the ones that I related with the most, so naturally I wanted to join that Covenant, but I couldn't. Because basically, as a protection paladin, if you want to be efficient at doing certain types of content, like raid content or Mythic Plus, which is the content that I'm more interested in, you're going to have to pick between Venthyr, which that's one of the last ones that I wanted to pick, and Bastion, which, to be honest, I also didn't want to pick because I didn't like the zone. I didn't like the story of that zone. I didn't like the Kyrians. I didn't care for any of that. But ultimately, because I want to be able to really excel at Mythic Plus, I went ahead and I chose the Kyrians, and their ability is friggin' awesome. Just like pretty much everyone's been saying for Protection Paladins, Kyrians are like probably one of the best covenants that you can be, because whenever I go into a dungeon and I pop wings and Divine Toll, it's like a nuclear explosion goes off, and I climb to the top of the damage meters and I deal a crap ton of damage, and on top of it, because of my talents, I get a massive shield. So basically in every AoE pull, I get a ton of damage and a ton of survivability, which is super important when you're doing Mythic Plus, because at the very start of a pull is when things can go really, really wrong because there's more enemies. So, it wasn't even like a choice for me. Like, sure, I wanted to choose Necros, but I couldn't. It's just that simple, which kind of sucks for the whole situation with the Covenants. Like, I love my ability, but every time that I go into the actual zone, I look at the zone, I'm like, the zone is beautiful, but I don't like the story associated with it. And again, story schmory, who cares, right? But this really got me back to thinking, like, the experience that you have throughout this whole expansion as you are leveling your character and as you are, experiencing the story, which I did experience, and I watched all of the cutscenes, and a lot of it just didn't stick for me because, in order for me to really appreciate a story and to become engaged with the content that a game is presenting to me, I need to be invested in my character, invested in the characters that I'm interacted with, and all of that. And then the story sticks and stays with me. But if it's not sticking, if I'm just seeing stuff that I just like, okay, this wouldn't work. This doesn't make any sense from my character standpoint. This doesn't make any sense from the past actions that my character has done. This doesn't even seem to make any sense in the world building of World of Warcraft to begin with. My brain just kind of like discards that information is not important, which is why I barely even remember a lot of the stuff that happened during Shadowlands. But it really got me thinking about when I played Final Fantasy XIV. And look, I know that there's going to be a lot of people that some people are going to be insulted that I'm comparing both games. Some people are going to be like, well, go play the other game. Like, that's not the point. You guys that just like instantly exaggerate. That's not the point. I'm not using this as a comparison to try to sell you on one game over the other. I'm looking at this as, what does one game do well that the other one does not? And when it comes to the telling of a story, I feel like World of Warcraft hasn't really made up its mind about what it wants to do. It feels like it's a little bit indecisive because they're like, well, we want to tell this story, but at the same time, we don't want the players to feel the need to be super engaged by the story. So we tell this story in a couple of cinematics here and there. And, you have to read a couple of quest texts here and there, but you don't have to read all of them, because in the midst of some important quests, which are part of the main campaign, there's also a bunch of just like, FedEx quests and a bunch of, go kill 10 boar quests and a bunch of stuff like that. And those quests, they have no significance to the story whatsoever. They're basically the basic definition of a side quest. It's just like you need to do them in order to advance the zone, but they're not connected to the actual story at all, which kind of creates a bit of a stigma, I feel like, where I'm looking at a quest and I'm the kind of guy like, okay, I want to read all the quests. I want to see, but like if I'm reading the quests and what I'm getting from them is basically like, oh, you got to go kill 10 boars, then I tend to lose interest in that particular quest. Whereas, then because of the fact that they are mixed with other quests that tell like important things and actually show you cinematics. Like when I was going through Bastion, I had a bunch of quests in a row that's just like, go kill this, go kill that, go pick up this item, bring it back to me. Like with no actual lore significance, no actual story significance whatsoever, right? And then suddenly, in the middle of one of those quests, because my brain's already formatted to just like, okay, next quest, go do this, go do that, whatever. Suddenly Uther shows up in a cinematic and I'm like, what? How did I go from like killing 10 boars to Uther being here? And Uther shows up and instantly disappears again. And I'm just like, it's like, what the hell just happened? This is a pretty important moment. Like, what? They actually did something really good this expansion, which is they marked the main campaign story quests with a different symbol from other quests that you find throughout the world, so that you can easily identify, oh, this is a main campaign quest and that is a side quest. And you can kind of like make the decision, do I want to advance my story and progress forward, or do I want to stick around the zone a little bit longer and do a couple of side quests, just to chill out a little bit, which is good. It's a very good improvement. But having said that, there's still a lot of kind of meaningless quests that really don't give you anything in terms of story. It's just like I said, it's the basic, go kill 10 boars or whatever. There's still a lot of that included in these quests that are marked as being a part of the main campaign. And that's not to say that Final Fantasy XIV does this perfectly, because I brought up the Final Fantasy XIV comparison earlier, but they have been gradually improving with each expansion. And I think that Shadowbringers actually does a pretty good job of not giving you a lot of quests in your main campaign that are just like boring quests or quests that don't actually advance the story. And that's kind of like what I would want. Like, and if you want to have like a side quest, then you can come up with like a different symbol maybe, and like, oh, this one's an important quest. You got to pay attention during this one if you want to get the story. Because I want to get the story, but if you give me like 4 or 5 quests in a row where it basically tells me something about, 2 characters that I'm never even going to remember 5 minutes from now because they don't matter, and how those 2 characters need help, and that's somehow going to contribute like a 5% something to something that I'm working towards in the main story. Like, I don't want to read that, because it doesn't matter. Because it's pointless, because it doesn't actually advance the story, doesn't advance the lore, doesn't advance anything. Like, sure, you want me to go kill 10 boars? I'll go kill 10 boars, I don't care. But don't ask me to pay attention while I'm reading the text of a quest that basically is just gonna tell me, go kill 10 boars, and these boars mean nothing. Like if you send me on a quest that's like, you got to go kill this character because he does this thing that is like super relevant to this part of the story. And, you know, and when you kill him, maybe you get a cinematic or something, like that's a different thing altogether. But just having all of these things mixed, that is where the problem is, because basically you're conditioning players to a certain point to just ignore it. Which is why if you really go look at people that have played the game for a significant amount of time, like some of the more dedicated players that actually provide feedback on the beta and all of that stuff, a lot of them just don't care about the story. Why? Because, you know, they look at the story, they look at the way that you do quests, and they just end up even like skipping cinematics and just like burning through the content in 5 seconds to just get to max level and actually enjoy the end game. And the end game is actually pretty decent. I might do a separate video talking about that because I've already stretched myself significantly during the leveling experience here. But, you know, it's just a little bit frustrating that that is still the case. And now that, you know, now that I've experienced a different, a very different game from WoW, which I've played multiple MMOs before coming to 14, but 14 does things in a way it's more restrictive, because if you're the kind of player that doesn't care that much about the story, then you're kind of screwed, because, you know, if you don't care about the story and you're basically kind of like forced to sit through these cutscenes, well, you can skip them if you want to, but then you'll really understand nothing. But, you know, if you're the kind of player that doesn't like that, then sure, Final Fantasy XIV, the experience there is not going to be as good for you. But if you're someone like me who does enjoy, you know, figuring out the story and experiencing what is actually happening in the Shadowlands, I just feel like the way that they did it is so disconnected and kind of just like pulls you out of the experience multiple times. Like I said, in the Rivendreth zone, like how is the hero of Azeroth, the champion of Azeroth, coming in here to the Shadowlands and torturing souls? Like, this just doesn't make sense. And I'm not saying this as in the meaning of like, oh my God, I can't believe Blizzard asked me to torture souls. It's like, I don't care. The thing to me is like, it doesn't make sense for my character at all. Like, on top of things, I'm a paladin, for crying out loud. I'm a friggin' paladin, asked to go to the realm of the afterlife and torture a bunch of people. Like, what? Oh man, but you know, besides that, if you take that apart, I enjoyed the dungeons, but then I also have another problem, which is, for instance, there's a character, which is a character that shows up in the Bastion cinematic, Devos, who is a Kyrian that is kind of like tutoring Uther, and you can tell that she's got a bit of a mean streak going on, because she kind of like has Uther pick up Arthas, dump him in the mall, and do all these things, and you can see Uther kind of like going to the dark side under her influence. So you can tell that she's got a bit of a bad streak. But when I played through Bastion, and I joined Bastion, by the way, so this is not even something that I can tell that was explained during the Bastion campaign or anything, of the little bit that I've been able to do of it so far. But like, as you are playing through, I didn't notice any quest that would talk about, you know, Devos being evil. Like, Devos shows up on a couple of sections, and you just see her as a normal Kyrian. And then suddenly, if you go do the dungeon Spires of Ascension, I think it's Spires of Ascension, Devos is a Forsworn. She's the final boss of that dungeon, and I'm thinking to myself, can I get some character? Like, because this is supposed to be an important character. She shows up in the goddamn cinematic for Bastion. So I'm like, can I get some character? Can I understand why this character is evil? Like, I know why she's evil, but it's just like, there's no, at least from what I could tell, there was no quest that kind of explained to me the process of what happened to Devos. So you just, when you go to that instance, you're like, oh, Devos is evil. All right, I guess that's just the thing. And during the instance, she talks a lot, and you kind of like get to know what the deal is with that. But I just thought it's weird. It's a little bit weird, because like, shouldn't there be a quest that kind of shows that happening? Maybe I'm just expecting too much from World of Warcraft at this point. But yeah, the other thing that I wanted to bring up real quickly is like, I did not appreciate the way that Blizzard did rares and treasures in this expansion. Because usually, you know, I like to go off the beaten path, and, you know, if there's like a rare or something, I want to go and I want to go kill the rare and obviously get rewards for it, and I want to go get the chests and stuff that I see off the beaten path. But this time they were like, okay, we're going to do a couple of puzzles around these things. I don't think during BFA you had that many of these puzzle type situations, but they're like, we're going to put a couple of puzzles around these things so that, it, you know, you have to actually work a little bit to get your loot. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But the problem is that those puzzles are just not intuitive at all. Like, they'll put stuff that is completely unrelated to the treasure that you are trying to get right next to that treasure. And so you end up being confused and wasting a bunch of time trying to figure it out, and until eventually you just go to Wowhead and you're like, oh, so this thing is completely unrelated. Like, here's an example. I was at Arden Wheel, which is already a zone that I did not like. And I guess this probably contributed a lot to me liking it even less. But there's this chest behind a barrier, which has like the colors of a Drust, which is a faction that is like attacking the faction of Arden Wheel, right? And I see this barrier, and I'm like, okay, so there's a treasure in there, so logically there has to be something close by that kind of like allows me to pass this barrier. So I look around and I see these totems that you can interact with. So I interact with the totems, and it starts like this wave-based event where Drustvar come attack me, and it replaces the totems with banners for Arden Wheel. And I was like, okay, this probably has something to do with that barrier. Like, it makes sense. It's next to the barrier. It generates an event, and mobs come out, and you kill the mobs, and then it's almost like they even say you've progressed, and now you've pushed the forces of Drustvar back or whatever. And okay, so I did it once, and then I go back to the barrier, and it's still up. And I'm just like, huh, I wonder if there's another totem around. So I go around, and I see another totem. But by now, the totem that I had previously done was back up. So I was like, okay, so I have to do these two totems. So I do both of them. And then I go back to the barrier, and it's still closed. And I'm just like looking at it. I'm like, what did I do wrong? Like, I did both the banners. So I don't know. So then eventually I go to Wowhead, and Wowhead tells me, oh yeah, to open that barrier, you need to go get this item, which is like across the map on the other side. Then you need to go get another item, which is all the way across to the other side of the map. And then a third item, which is on the opposite side of both the other sides that I just told you. And I'm just like, well, what the hell? You know, it's like, okay, I get it. It's a puzzle, but like, why would you put those two totems there for the Drust right next to this barrier, so that, you know, I think most players, if they're trying to figure stuff out, instead of just looking it up, they'd assume, okay, these two things are probably connected. I mean, the barrier has the Drust colors. There's Drust totems around. Probably if I do actions in the Drust totems, it's going to open the barrier. I was like, no, it just doesn't make any goddamn sense whatsoever. And there was a very similar situation in Bastion, to the point where I just completely gave up on even, you know, trying to figure out chests. I was just like, okay, whatever. Whenever a new chest showed up, I would go to Wowhead. Okay, what's this chest do? And what kind of nonsense do I have to do? Because the stuff just did not make sense. It was just not intuitive at all. And even certain rares, the way that you summon certain rares, like, oh, here's an unstable memory fragment. Okay, you're supposed to taunt the unstable memory fragment and make it touch 9 other unstable memory fragments to get its stacking buff, and then eventually the boss. How the hell am I going to guess that? Like, what? Like, it's just, I don't know. Maybe it's me. Let me know in the comment section down below, but I thought it was really ridiculous. Like, I think it's a good idea that you have to do these kind of like, you know, logical puzzles when you see the rare, or when you see the chest, because it's more engaging. But I think that you really need to design those puzzles well, so that players get there and they can think for a little bit, and they can figure out, okay, here's what I got to do for this particular puzzle. As opposed to, you know, let me put a bunch of completely unrelated nonsense next to this puzzle, so that players get here and they have no idea what the hell they're supposed to do. They'll start interacting with all of this that is completely unrelated, and I'll waste everyone's time. It's like, that's the last thing you want people to feel like in an MMO. The last thing you want to do is make people feel like you're wasting their time. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the leveling experience. I didn't think it was particularly great. I've seen a lot of people saying, oh no, it's fantastic, it's the best. And I'm just looking at it and I'm like, I'm sorry, I completely disagree. But, you know, the rest of it has actually been pretty fun, you know, playing the dungeons themselves. I think the mechanics are cool. I'm just now starting to do mythics. I know I'm late because I was doing some of the other stuff. And yeah, I was just like figuring out. And I think Torghast is a lot of fun as well. I'll probably do another video talking about the endgame systems and the mythic plus grind. Not mythic plus, but just like mythic grind and all of that. But for now, that's it. Let me know what you guys think about this video. Thank you all very much for watching. See you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.